Vinney Smile Chopra, a man who took $7 to a portfolio of over $250 million in apartment investing. He mentors and coaches to make apartment syndication easy. Each week, he will share his expertise, tricks, trades, and golden nuggets how to master the art of syndication to bring cash flow streams to your business, to change your life for the better. Here is Mr. Smiles.
Welcome to Syndication Made Easy with Vinney Chopra, also known as Mr. Smiles. Today we have an incredible guest. This is somebody who has Vinney's back all day long. An SEC attorney is Kim Lisa Taylor, and she is top notch. I mean, how many syndications have you guys done together?
We have done together 26 syndications. I'm so fired up. Amen. Kim, it's such a pleasure to have you on my podcast. And I want to introduce you formally. Kim Lisa Taylor is a nationally recognized public speaker, author, and attorney licensed in California and Florida. She's the founder of Syndication Attorneys PLCC, and a nationwide corporate securities legal practice, and author of the Amazon's best-selling book. Guys, you got to get it. I'm telling you, how to legally raise private money. Everybody's trying to raise private money.
I know I am.
You got to go to it. I'm telling you, and the definitive guide to raising money for real estate and small business. She routinely teaches subjects related to raising private money in front of groups ranging from 50 groups, people in the audience to 1,000 plus attendees. And Kim has the unique ability to convey the complex legal subjects in understandable terms to audiences large and small. Her law firm helps entrepreneurs like me, which she has taken so good care of me, comply with the legal requirements for raising money from private investors. Kim, welcome to the show. I am excited to have you.
Thank you.
First of all, Kim, I will have to say I'm a little bit of a novice. Like I'm into the flipping houses. I know a lot about multifamily thanks to Vinney, but I don't know anything about the SEC. So first of all, I want to know, why did you even get into this business, and what is your experience?
Well, so I've been practicing corporate securities law since 2008, and so over 10 years now. Have made it my sole practice since 2010. I got into it because I liked real estate, and my husband and I were real estate investors. When I met him, he was already investing in stuff. I wanted to learn more about it. We kind of embarked on a journey to learn more about buying commercial and multifamily properties ourselves. We got into a coaching program, figured out, just like all the other people out there, that once you learn how to buy it, you got to figure out where to get the money. And
right.
I was an attorney, so I thought, well, I better learn how to do this right so I don't lose my license. And so I met a mentor and started working with him, and just built a practice around this. Just a few years ago, I branched off into my own practice from my former partnership. And now, just helping people learn how to do it. And, what I had been practicing as a litigator prior to this, I was a support.
Really?
Yeah, I had been doing real estate litigation and environmental litigation. And once I found securities law and realized that it was about helping people put deals together and figure out how to make them work and figure out how to split money with investors and how to comply with securities laws and all that, it just seemed like a much better fit, because I really just like the whole idea of helping people achieve their financial goals and, learn how to do stuff without fear.
Wow.
Well, now I know why you two get along so well.
Yeah, and when Vinney started, he was, he needed.
Oh my gosh!
He needed that
12
support
years back,
too.
Something, and I'm so blessed that I came to know Kim and Jean Trowbridge, my other friend, and they have taken so good care of me, and I really want everybody listening to me, guys. You got to figure out to do everything legally. And I'm going to ask Kim, what are the 3 mistakes you would just say most of the syndicators, the new ones, the old ones make?
I think that new syndicators spend a lot of time trying to find single investors to take on their deals because they're afraid of talking to people about money. So I'd say that's a number one mistake for new syndicators. Then I see people going into the next phase of instead of looking for single investors, they look for other people to raise the money for them.
Yeah.
And so they start relying on other people. But I think both of those are really part of the same problem. And the problem being that you really have to have a good investor marketing plan in place, as you know, that describes how you're going to meet people, how you're going to make an impression, how you're going to keep them engaged before you have deals. And most of the people that take the time and actually do that become wildly successful. These are the people that are doing, $50 million offerings and things like that. The people that don't take the time to do that, they're still struggling to raise $50 million at a time.
So true, Kim. I mean, I've seen in my life, my first apartment building we ever bought was the 180,000, 14 units. And I remember raising that $1 million for the first syndication. And it was daunting. It was really, really daunting. But the thing was, you have to take that step. You got to put together a little pitch book, I call it, or PowerPoint, small educational brochure, so that we can talk to the investors and show the authority, what we know, and be vulnerable and also be truthful and transparent. Yeah.
Is that something that you gave him? Because I think it comes naturally to him, but he's always about being transparent and following by the rules, the SEC. So I think that you have credit to take from that.
Well, the credit I have to take for that is to help Vinney deepen his understanding of the securities laws. And every offering that he did, his understanding deepened and became more broad. It's hard. The first time you're just kind of doing it by the seat.
Overwhelming.
Yeah. But Vinney, as far as his ability to talk to people, he had that long before he met me.
I knew that. But he does. He's very specific because we've done a lot of podcasts and we've talked a lot about the SEC and how you have to meet somebody beforehand. You can't get a deal and then go find an investor and stuff like that, which we'll go deeper into. But he's definitely learned a lot from you. So, I mean,
and vice versa.
Very knowledgeable. What?
I've learned a lot from Vinney too. I learn from my clients every single day.
Thank you. Thank you so
awesome.
much. The big thing is that I remember when we got into this business 14 years back, I became broker in California, 2004. That's 15 years back. My wife said, oh my gosh, we got to make sure we take care of investors' money better than our money. You promised me, right? You promised me that. And I remember getting this $100,000 check. Our good friend who actually, we couldn't sleep that night, literally. And next day we drove to his place. He had mailed it to us and we wanted to give that $100,000 back to him because we didn't want to lose it. And I mean, this is a small story, but then he says, Vinney, no, I've invested in hotels. I've invested in this 100, I know it will be all right. And now he's got millions.
Wow.
Obviously, he has a knack for knowing what's good and what's not.
Everything. So it's exciting to know that, people do take chance and they give you that because if you're trustworthy, that's the number one thing I hope we can say in this podcast and bring this to the audience, that you got to be transparent. You got to be truthful. You got to be trustworthy to make it happen in SEC rules. I love the SEC governed board, I call it, because, it keeps people straight. It keeps people honest. Isn't that true, right, Kim?
Yeah, well, I think you touched on something, about being transparent and being honest and taking care of other people's money more carefully than as if it was your own. And that is actually a legal obligation. When you're selling securities laws, you actually have a legal obligation to handle other people's money more carefully than you would handle your own, and to put their interests above your own. So, even though, you could be in a deal where you're not making very much money, but yet these investors are doing great, you kind of have an obligation to let the deal work out. Even though you don't, you might want to just sell it and get some money, cash it out. That if that's not in their best interest, you can't make that decision. It's always about what they want. And then the thing about being transparent, this is something that I learned from one of our initial mentors. That was David Lindahl, right? And he said, you have to tell people what's going on, good, bad, or ugly.
Yep.
And I firmly believe that when things are going wrong, you need to step up your communications.
Yes.
Don't stick your head in the sand. Don't, pretend it's not happening, because that's the worst possible thing you could do. Don't disappear. Be upfront, be honest, tell people exactly what's going on, but also realize that your investors are smart business people.
Yes.
And some of them are very wealthy, and, they didn't get there by making dumb decisions. And surely they've had some, issues along the way too. So some of them might be able to actually help you solve that problem in ways you wouldn't have thought of. And so you need to share that with them and take their counsel. And, you as the manager will have the ultimate decision as far as what you're going to do. But you don't want to discount those skills that your own investors might have and might be able to help you solve these problems, or at least understand it so they're not blaming you.
It's so true, Kim. I just remembered about something I've got to share with the audience. It was the Cosmopolitan Apartments. I don't mind saying that because all my examples are real examples in San Antonio, in Alamo Heights. And we had a group of attorneys who invested money with us, with my partner and us. And we found out some challenges as we took over with foundation, with sewer lines falling down, all that. We had to evacuate the buildings and we could not do the cash flow. We just gave one cash flow, but then we were meeting every 2 weeks with the representatives of that group to make sure they know what we are going through and to know the good, bad, the ugly, like you said, right?
Right.
And that is so very important. And they were so good in understanding what we are going through and what actions we are taking. And, fortunately, we did sell that asset after 2.5 years and gave them, pretty good returns. So,
yeah. You always give your clients good returns. I've always heard that about you.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Kim, you've done an amazing job teaching him on SEC rules. Like, I seriously feel like I might have a new career in front of me because I'm told exactly what you have to do before you do it. And he's always about being transparent and just, take care of business and not going about it the wrong way because you're scared.
That's right.
And that's a huge thing. So what I would like to know a little bit more about, because I'm not a real estate attorney. I'm used to be an investor and flip houses, but I don't know enough. So what is the difference between capital raising and then raising on social media? There's a 50 something.
So there's really when you're selling securities. So in this case, when most of the people that are buying commercial properties are raising money by selling interests in a company that's going to go out and buy some real estate. Mm-hmm. And so those interests in that company that you're selling to investors in exchange for their money, those are securities, and they're securities in the form of an investment contract. So the investment contract is the term that the SEC is looking at. That's within the definition of what are securities. And so when you're selling these investment contracts and an interest in a company and you're relying on someone else to generate a profit for you. So this is a passive investment scenario where there's somebody who's promoting the offering. They're the ones that have the deal under contract. They're looking for passive investors. That's kind of the classic scenario where you are creating these investment contracts. So these investment contracts are securities. When you're selling securities, you either have to register your offering by getting pre-approval from regulatory agencies. That's the process of taking a company public
Yep.
Or you have to qualify for an exemption from registration. So the registration process is very long and cumbersome and expensive, but the exemptions are not that hard to follow, but every exemption has a very specific set of rules. So there's 2 exemptions that are very, very common when you are trying to raise money from people and maybe crossing state lines. Like you are in a different state than the property. The investors could be coming from multiple
states. There's a difference if somebody's in a different state. So if I were to invest in one of Vinney's in properties in Florida, there would be a difference there.
Well, so Vinney would be following the federal rule that will allow you to do that. So the federal rules allow you to raise money from investors in any state. You can raise an unlimited amount of money, but there are some financial qualifications. So the 2 different rules that you mentioned in your question are Regulation D, Rule 506. One of them is called 506B, like boy. The other is 506C, like cat. Okay, so Rule 506B and Rule 506C. Rule 506B is the original rule. It's been around since the mid-1980s. It's the friends and family exemption. That otherwise, it used to be known as the country club exemption. So this is where you can tell your close friends and associates about your specific offering. It's all by word of mouth. And if you do that, then you're allowed to bring in an unlimited number of accredited investors and up to 35 non-accredited investors. So accredited are people who have over $1 million net worth, or they have over $200,000 a year income if they're single, $300,000 a year income if they're married. So think of it as the 1, 2, 3 rule: $1 million net worth or $200,000 income.
Is that net worth on property too, or is it just like cash?
It can't be any equity in your primary residence.
That's right.
But it could include equity in any income properties.
Rentals and all.
So if they had like a rental or another syndication or something like that.
Or stocks and bonds, liquid assets, cash, all of that stuff would count. And those are the definitions for individuals. Those are other definitions of an accredited investor for people, trusts and other companies and things like that. But so under 506B, you can bring in an unlimited number of accredited investors and up to 35 non-accredited investors. But the non-accredited investors, and technically all of the investors, should be sophisticated enough to understand the risks and merits of the offering, either alone or with the help of their investment advisor. So they can self-certify. You don't have to go through any verification process to prove that. They can look at the definitions and say, yes, I meet that. And you can take them at their word as long as you don't know different about them.
What they should know, Kim, like, would you say sophisticated investors? We will say sophisticated if they've done what?
It's something more than just a job and some savings. Okay. They should have had some training. Maybe they've heavily invested in stock market. They're entrepreneurs themselves. They've owned other real estate. They might have a degree in economics or finance or business. Something that makes them.
They got some common sense about investing, basically.
Yeah, so they've got to be able to show how they meet that requirement, and they should be able to describe that in their own words. And that's what you're going to do is give them a form where they're going to be able to elaborate on why they're sophisticated enough to be in the deal. But the hallmark of the Rule 506B offering is that you can't find investors through any means of general advertising or solicitation. Yep. So that means that it's all word of mouth. People you've met one-on-one, you call them up after you've developed a relationship with them. The relationship is very specific. It has to predate the offering. So you knew them before you had the offering in hand. And also it has to be substantive. So the substantive relationship means that before you start asking them and telling them about your investment opportunity, you already know whether they're accredited or non-accredited and whether they meet those requirements, whether they're sophisticated, and you have an idea of what their investing goals are. The only way that you can possibly know that is to have had those conversations with them. So it's more than just having met somebody at an event and exchanged business cards. You have to have a follow-up conversation. You have to have some, continuing contact with them where you're getting to know them better and knowing those things about them before you start making those verbal one-on-one offers. So that's 506B.
But
okay.
Also you talk about Kim logging. Can you kind of expand on that? We need to have
a record keeping system. So that's the other thing, is that in order to prove all of that and that you followed those rules, you have to have a record keeping system.
Yes.
And the SEC actually asked for that?
Well, if you're ever audited, if somebody complains to a regulator, then
because I could see how many people could try to override that. Say, "Oh yeah, I talked to them before," but so record keeping.
Yeah, no. If you're ever questioned, think of this like a tax deduction. You can claim a tax deduction on your tax form, but if you ever get audited by the IRS, then you need to be able to show them the paperwork and proof that you're entitled to that deduction. And if you can't do that, then they're going to take it away. This is the same thing. Your record keeping system is, so you can show, this is when I met this person. This is when I had this conversation with them about their suitability. Here's the answers to the questions. Here's the questions I asked them. Yep. Here's what they said. And then here's how I continued to follow up with them after that. And then here's when I made my offer. So that's what you've got. Those are the kinds of records you have to keep. You should have a customer relations management system to do that. A CRM.
I was going to ask, do you have anything that you suggest?
Yes.
Yeah, well, or you should have an investor management platform, right? So once you get more than a couple of deals, you're really going to want to invest in having an investor management platform that will help you, give you a place to keep track of all of that information and a permanent record of all the things that transpired with that investor. If you're just starting out and you're not at that point yet, then we used to use Insightly, which is a Google app.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's last time I checked into it, it was free for a couple of people, so it's a good place to start. It allows you to put all your contacts in there. It allows you to keep notes when you have contact with someone, to upload documents if you send something to somebody, so you can just keep track of everything that you've done and all the different ways you've kept in touch. If you want more information about how to have, determine investors' suitability to be in your deal and whether or not they're sophisticated enough, there's an article on our website at syndicationattorneys.com called Determining Investor Suitability. And it actually has a link to some of the questions, but it also goes through the rationale of how the SEC came to this conclusion and what they said is required before you can start talking to people about deals for a Rule 506B offering. Now, the opposite of that is Rule 506C. Yep. So in 2012, the Jobs Act came along, and it took a little while for the SEC to get the regulations together, but eventually they allowed advertising for investors in these private exempt offerings. And so they created this second part, Rule 506C, which allows you to freely advertise any of your deals. You can put it in the newspaper, Craigslist, you can hold events, you can do, infomercials, webinars, all of that talking about your deal. But the only people that can invest with you have to be verified, accredited investors. So they actually have to go through a verification process.
That's the 100, that's the 100, is it 100, 200, 100, 300 if they're a couple? Is that what you're talking about? Accredited investors?
Yeah.
And have invested in something before. Okay. So they can pretty much advertise anywhere, but they can't take the investor on unless they are approved accredited investor.
Verifiable. I know, we have verifyinvestor.com, I think.
Sure. Yeah. In fact, we're even offering that through our website right now.
You are?
Yeah, so there's a verification page on our website where the investor can go and they can put in their own information. We don't do the verifications. We've chosen a company that does them, and we charge the same as that other company does.
That's awesome.
It's just a service.
I'll put a little plug for you right here, Kim, because I know your website is so good, and
it will be here on the show notes.
White papers and so many great articles. I would highly, highly recommend everybody listening to us to really go to attorneys, syndicationattorneys.com. There is immense knowledge there. And I think this is something, and all the recordings that you do also, right? Many years, teller recordings every month, they are there. so much knowledge is there,
Yeah, right. We have a library that's just chock full of articles, and I keep the articles short. I like to do 1 to 2 page articles so they're easy to read, just breaking down each of these topics into bite-sized chunks.
Sure.
We have almost 30 articles. We've got these recorded teleseminars. We do free monthly recorded teleseminars. If you want to get, know about those, you can sign up for our newsletter. We also have frequently asked questions. When people ask me questions a lot, then I'll just write the answer and I'll post it there so everybody can look at it. And
Are you comfortable if we do that on our YouTube channel? If anybody has a question for you on our YouTube channel or whatnot, to reach out to you, because all of your information is going to be here in the show notes.
Sure.
I think you're the best person to answer the questions. So
yeah, no, absolutely. I'm always happy to answer questions for Vinney's audience.
Thank you. Let's just talk about this big topic, Kim, raising money. Oh my gosh. I'm finding as I go into conferences and things like that, people are saying, I'm raising money for so-and-so. I'm raising money for so-and-so. So what should the people who are raising money for others keep in mind, and how can it be done legally?
Yeah, that's really a complex subject. So, first of all, we've talked about these exemptions, right? These exemptions apply to the issuer of the securities. So that's the company that's actually giving the investors the investment contract. Mm-hmm. So you're creating a company.
That would be like a Vinney in this scenario.
Well, it's different than that. So you're going to create in a typical syndication a company that's going to take title to the property if you're doing commercial real estate. And then you're going to also create a management entity. So it's a separate LLC, and that's going to have a management team within that. Okay. The issuer of the securities is actually the company that's taking title to the property.
Yes.
That's what we list as the issuer of securities when we file these Form D filings with the SEC and with the state securities agencies. So the issuer of the securities is the only one entitled to the exemption. So in order for somebody else to be able to raise money for that issuer under an exempt offering, they either have to be part of the issuer to enjoy that exemption, or they have to have a securities license. If they're not inside that issuer, if they're not a member of that issuing entity, then they would have to have a securities license to be able to sell securities for a third party. So that's the first and foremost thing. They have to be part of the issuer in order to be entitled to the issuer exemption. So that means they've got to become a member. You can't hire a consultant. You can't hire an outside person to do this for you unless they have a securities license. All right. So then the second thing that you need to know is that unless you have a securities license, you can't earn a commission for raising money for someone else. So you can't be compensated based on the amount of money that you have raised. And your compensation has to be for something else. So the something else has to be your other role in management besides raising money. That's what you're getting compensated for. So I like to say it like this. Everybody in management has a job of raising money. Everybody in management also has other jobs. They all get paid for their other jobs.
They have teams, they have schedules. There's a ton of things that they do.
There's so many different things that, there's so many different tasks associated with, finding a deal and doing due diligence and doing the analysis and
underwriting,
bringing the deal to the table, and then helping to raise money is just a small part of that. So don't get paid a commission. Don't get paid just for raising money. Have some job other than raising money, and don't get paid something that's related to the amount of money that you've raised. Those are the two biggest things that you have to be concerned with. Be a part of the issuer in order to be entitled to the issuer exemption, and also be aware of taking a commission.
Beautiful. Did you see some of these securities laws changing in the future?
That's what I was just going to ask. I was just going to ask her that. Okay. What do you see for 2020?
Well, I don't know if it's going to happen in 2020. There's proposed legislation that would allow finders to be paid a finder's fee for introducing people to securities offerings. So
What's the difference between a finder?
Expand on that a little bit. Why it's becoming that way?
I'm not going to expand on it too much because this is not the first time it's been proposed. Okay, so this is, don't hold your breath for it. If it happens, it's fantastic. But, it's proposed. It would be fantastic. I mean, that would allow somebody like me who's not in the business. So it allows people who are not in the business of raising money for other people to be paid a finder fee for referring somebody to a deal. So say if you have an investor that says, hey, I've got 2 or 3 other guys, what if I refer them? Can you pay me a little finder's fee? Sure. But it's not going to allow people to go out and become finders. Again, if you want to do that and that's your business, then you should become a registered broker dealer with a securities license to do that. So there, we'll have to wait and see what happens with this proposed finders rule. That's number one. There's also proposed legislation to change the definition of an accredited investor, or to eliminate the need for people to be accredited investors in order to be able to participate in these advertised offerings. Because the premise here is that it's inherently unfair that only the wealthy investors can find out about these deals, where other people would be, more than willing.
They cannot get in.
Eligible, but they don't know anybody who's doing it, so they can't find it. So, here's the thing that people need to understand. There's a lot of people that would invest with you, but they just don't know anybody that's doing what you're doing. So if you're not out there telling them what you're doing, then you're kind of doing a disservice to those investors.
So true. So true. It's so logically, what they are talking about. And again, with the crowdfunding and all those players coming in, that is for accredited investors. Like you said, they are the wealthy ones, and those who really need help are the ones, who could get better returns.
That's right.
If they were given the chance, if they were given the opportunity. So that's so very true. But let's just talk about, about how much can somebody invest? I know we discussed that. Thanks again for coming on the master coaching class. My circle, Kim, you were a star. You really were. I mean, we kept that for an hour and a half. That was amazing. And everybody had so much they wanted to thank you right then too. So tell us a little bit more. I think, is there any rule where somebody can only invest what percentage of their savings or whatever?
Yeah, that's not applicable underneath the federal rules. So if you're using this Rule 506B or Rule 506C, you don't have to worry about whether somebody's net worth in your deal. If you are using an intrastate exemption, so if you were raising money so that everything was contained in one state, you live in Texas, the property's in Texas, all your investors are in Texas, then Texas, each state has its own securities agency. And each state has its own securities rules. So if you were going to do that, you could look at one of the Texas intrastate offering rules, and there's a couple of different exemptions that they have that might allow you to do it without having to maybe jump through quite as many hoops as the federal rules require. But everything, the property, 80% of the property that you're acquiring has to be in that state. So if you're just buying one property, well, it's got to be in that state. So if you wanted to do that, then you might be able to. But then those states, and as part of their own exemptions, do have some requirements on how much of somebody's net worth you might be able to accept.
Got it. Oh, wonderful. Oh my gosh, we can keep on talking
we could actually have a whole nother, because I have a whole more questions. As you can see, I don't shut up. And I always ask and I always dig, but I do want to know, Vinney's probably not your only client, but you've done 26 syndications with him. So what do you think contributes to being a top syndicator on your side?
Well, I'm sorry, say again. What do you think? What
contributes to being a top syndicator? Like, who does it all right and who's successful?
Like another Vinney.
Another Vinney.
Well, there's, I think you have to genuinely, to be able to be really good at raising money, You have to genuinely like people and like talking to people and like getting out in front of people.
Yeah.
If you're not that, if you're not that extrovert that likes to go out and socialize and join groups and things like that and just network with people all the time, then I think there are other roles for you in that syndication, but you still need that person. You need that person that has that skill set and that ability to talk to people. There's one of the teleseminars on our website is 60 Years of Wisdom with Sam Freshman. Sam Freshman is completely amazing. He also wrote a book on syndication called Principles of Real Estate Syndication.
Right.
Sam has been raising money for 60 years. When I asked him during the interview, about how much have you raised, he said, I don't know, maybe probably $1 billion. and I said, well, how did you do that? How did you do that? And he said, when I first started out, I just joined every club that I could and I kept showing up,
He grinded it out.
Kept going every single month. I was always there. I was always consistent. I always talked to people about what I did. And now, he's got more money than he needs for his deals and has had for years and years and years. So that's really your ticket. Join everything you can. Go as often as you can. You've got to show up. You can't just go to your local RIA and expect that people are going to, give you money just because you say you're there one time. You got to go. You got to be a regular member. There's meetups in your area. You got to show up. Go to events and things like that.
So true,
Yeah.
Kim. I mean, it's that building relationships and being out there and also, asking the people that you are close to. They will have so many other circles of influences. And not only that, take your investors and give them, like we are sending gifts now, right? We should be sending more gifts and talking to them and newsletters and asking them for, introducing to more other people. Tell us about your book. I know it was it's still top seller and other products that your company offers. Please tell
sure. Well, I've been working on that book since 2011 or something, and finally decided that I needed to get it done. Sat down and got it done. It was published in August. We became number one bestseller in 5 different categories, 2 legal categories and 3 real estate categories.
Nice.
When it was launched, and
Awesome.
it continues to enjoy regular and routine purchases. We're super happy with how that's going. And the whole idea was really to kind of, show syndication process step by step, demystify it. You hear the way I speak. This is also the way I write. I try to do it in plain English, so it's not in legalese.
Yep.
Easily understandable. And a lot of people have told me that it's really helped them. So that's my hope, is that it helps people become better syndicators.
Well, I will link to the book and put it on the show notes, because between Vinney's and yours,
big combination.
That's everything. That's a combination right there.
Mine's about the legal aspects. Vinney's teaching you all the practical aspects.
Yep.
That's the combination that you need to be successful. And then the third combination is how to get your deals. So you can get 2 of those things from Vinney, and so
also and a ton of information from you.
Products. I know you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Master coaching class. Could you expand on that?
Yeah. So we have, we kept telling our clients for years that if you would use professionally drafted and written marketing materials, that you'd be able to raise money faster and from higher net worth individuals. Yes. They're used to seeing those high quality marketing products. And so if you can produce something comparable, then they're going to take you more seriously.
Yeah.
And, plus it helps you really just flesh out your business model and stay on track. And so we kept telling people that, our clients, they needed to find that, and they couldn't find it anywhere. So we put together our own department and our own division called investormarketingmaterials.com.
Love it.
Create investor marketing materials. So we've got professional editors and also graphic designers. So we can put together your business plan, company brochures, pitch decks, track records, websites, all the things you need to do to support your syndication business. We're getting ready to add branding packages. So we'll be able to help people that are just starting out. They don't even have a logo. They need to, kind of have us help develop all that stuff and put it all together in a cohesive program so that everything looks the same. You pick your colors, your fonts, your themes, and you use that on your website, and you use it on everything that you give to investors. So remember, in the beginning, I said you've got to find a way to be able to meet people. So you got to figure out where you're going to meet people. But then you got to figure out what you're going to give them to make a lasting impression when you do meet them. So you want them to go away with something, not just a handshake and not just a business card. You want them to go away with something in their hand that they can keep out on their desk or take home and share with their significant other and ponder it, think about it. And then they should be able to go and look up on your website, see the consistent message, consistent information about you and your company and your team. And if you put all that together, eventually you're going to want to put together a drip system or a newsletter or something where you can start reaching out to these investors on a regular basis, keeping them informed of what you're doing, but also what's going on in the marketplace and news that's significant to them. When you're raising money, you always want to be contrasting your real estate offerings to the stock market.
So true.
Because that's the competition for your investor dollars is other stock market, other traditional investments. But you also need to know what's going on in your market so that you're competitive within your market as well. But anyway, so that's investormarketingmaterials.com. Go check it out. You can buy things right there. These are non-legal services, but everything is reviewed by a securities attorney. One of our staff, either me or one of our other staff. We now have 3 attorneys.
Oh, wow.
And we just, one of our recent attorneys that joined us has tax. He's got about 20 years of experience in tax.
Awesome.
He's also licensed in UK and in the US, New York. So, so one of the things that we're able to offer now are, things with opportunity zones. So we're able to offer opportunity zone offerings, and then also dealing with foreign investors when you want to create some kind of a blocker company for tax purposes offshore.
Beautiful.
We can start, giving better advice internally about that and helping investors with all of those things. We've got.
Love it. That's awesome.
I still want you back on for international investors.
We'll talk more about it. I know foreign investments, that's something also we'll love to have you come back. And thanks again for your time this morning. I really appreciate that. And I know Alicia and I both.
Yes, I did too. But I do. If what is the best place to contact you?
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to reach out to our firm, syndicationattorneys.com, you can schedule a consultation with my law clerk, Charlene Standridge, and she'll tell you all about, services, listen to what you need, and kind of help you figure out what of our services might be able to help you. If you need to, have an appointment with me, she can schedule that. But check out syndicationattorneys.com. And investormarketingmaterials.com. And we're adding new stuff all the time. So you gotta constantly look. But we'd love to have you sign up for our newsletter and see you on some of our upcoming teleseminars.
Thank you so much.
If you also have any questions for her, please leave it below.
Such a pleasure, guys. Please make sure that you are doing a fabulous job of listening to this interview again.
Yes.
I know there are a lot of wonderful nuggets that Kim gave us, and thank you so much, Kim. What you have done for me, I want to publicly thank you because I'm where I am because of all the help that you gave me.
Well, and Vinney, you've been a big help for our firm and for our growth as well, and so we appreciate you very much.
But it's a mutual beneficial relationship. But guys, you just heard from Kim Lisa Taylor and Vinney Chopra, and this is Syndication Made Easy. Until next time. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Be sure to listen to Mr. Smiles next week with more golden nuggets and top-notch coaching tips. You can reach him by going to VinneyChopra.com or texting the word syndication to 474747. Be sure to like, comment, and share to show everyone how Mr. Smiles has brought your apartment syndication business to the next level.